الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا ومطاعنا محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وأبشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون نحن أولياؤكم في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة ولكم فيها ما تشتهي أنفسكم ولكم فيها ما تدعون نزلا من غفور رحيم صدق الله العظيم. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ألا وإن الدنيا عرض حاضر يأكل منه البر والفاجر ألا وإن الآخرة أجل صادق يقضي فيها ملك عادل قادر يحق الحق ويبطل الباطل ألا وإن الخير كله بحذافيره في الجنة ألا وإن الشر كله بحذافيره في النار ألا فاعملوا وأنتم من الله على حذر واعلموا أنكم معروضون على أعمالكم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Respected ulama kiram, elders, beloved brothers in Islam, Allah's greatness, Allah's azmat, Allah's kibriyai, Allah's jalal, this is wara'ul wara, beyond human comprehension. Akbar min kulli kabir, aqwa min kulli qawi, a'az min kulli aziz, a'zam min kulli azim, ajal min kulli jalil, greater than anything with greatness, more majestic than anything with majesty, more powerful than anything with power, more mighty than anything with might, more glorious than anything with glory. وَهُوَ الَّذِي فِي السَّمَاءِ إِلَهٌ وَفِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَهٌ. He is the ilah of the heavens, He is the ilah of the earth. لَهُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا وَمَا تَحْتَ الثَّرَى. أَلَا إِنَّ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ ألا إن لله من في السماوات ومن في الأرض. Everything in the heavens, everything in the earth, everything between the heavens and the earth, everything beneath the earth, every cell in our bodies, every atom in this universe belongs to Allah. It is His hakimiyat, His hukumiyat, His samadiyat, His jabariyat that is muhit, encompasses every facet of this creation. It is Allah's hukam. Inil hukmu illa lillah. It is Allah's quwwat and power. Ala innal quwwata lillahi jami'a. It is Allah's amr and decree. Lillahi al-amru min qablu wa min ba'd. That exercises itself, exerts itself upon this entire creation so comprehensively that la yus'alu amma yaf'al wa hum yus'alun. No one questions Allah. Ma kana lahumul khira wa rabbuka yakhluqu ma yasha'u wa yakhtar. Your Rabb, Allah, creates whatever He wants وَيَخْتَارُ. It is his ikhtiyar, it is his choice. Someone insan, someone jinnat, someone bird, someone insect, someone animal, someone a dog, someone a monkey, someone a wolf, someone a lion. Different creations. مَا كَانَ لَهُمُ الْخِيَرَةِ. No one requisition to ask Allah. It is his ikhtiyar, it is his choice. هُوَ الَّذِي يُصَوِّرُكُمْ فِي الْأَرْحَامِ كَيْفَ يَشَاءُ. Allah shaped you, fashioned you. Fil arham, in the womb of your mothers, kayfa yasha, as Allah wanted. No one requisition, I need to be tall or I need to be short, I want to be fair complexion or dark complexion, with this color eyes, with that color hair. In no aspect of the creation of any creation does any creation have this ability to requisition Allah. It is Allah's decision, it is Allah's decree, it is His samadiyat. Allah is independent of this entire creation. Samad, la yasta'inu bi shay. He doesn't take help from anything. La yahtaju ila shay. Allah is not in need of anything. La yanfa'uhu shay. Nothing benefits Allah. La yadurruhu shay. Nothing harms Allah. Khaliqu kulli shay. He is the creator of everything. Alimun bi kulli shay. He has knowledge of everything. Latifun bi kulli shay. He exhibits His kindness towards everything. Laysa kamithlihi shay. There is nothing that is like Allah. Allah shapes, Allah fashions, Allah gives form, Allah gives color, Allah gives direction. All this is Allah's makhluk. It is Allah's creation. Allah Himself is above all this. La yahwihi makan. Allah is not confined in any space. Allah is there. Allah is there, but Allah does not occupy space. Allah is there. Allah is free of shape. Allah exists. Allah is free of form. Allah is there. Allah is free of color. Allah is there. Allah is free of direction. Allah has created shape, created form, created color, created direction. Allah Himself is above all this. Allah is Rabb of all this. Rabbul Mashriq wal Maghrib. Rabb of the East, Rabb of the West. Rabbul Mashriqain wa Rabbul Maghribain. East, West, North, South. Rabbul Mashariq wa Rabbul Magharib. Rabbul Samawati Sab'a wa Rabbul Arshil Azim. أينما تولوا فثم وجه الله. East, west, north, south, above, below, any direction, and you will find the jalwa of Allah. You will find the nur of Allah. La yahwihi makan. Allah does not occupy space. Allah is free of this. Allah is part of this. La yashtamilu alayhi zaman. Allah is free of time also. Past tense, present tense, future tense. That is for you and I. 100 years ago, now, 100 years from now, that is for you and I. Allah Himself is above all. Time is Allah's makhluk. What do we have? What do we have at our disposal to describe Allah? We use words. Words are made up of alphabets. Alphabets is makhluk. It's a creation. Words are a creation. And that which is created is finite, it is restricted, it is confined. Khaliq, Allah is infinite. There is no limit to any of the sifat and attributes of Allah. So that which is makhluk, that which is created, can never ever do justice to describing Khaliq, the creator. But we are compelled, we don't have any other choice. This is what we have at our disposal. That is why we find in the books of Aqaid expressions, Qadimun bila ibtida, Daimun bila intiha, Awwal bila bidaya, Akhir bila nihaya. Allah is the first, without a beginning. Allah is the last, without an ending. We use words to describe, but these words don't do justice. For example, we say Allah is forever. What does forever mean? Forever means a very, 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 very long period of time. That cannot do justice to describing Allah, because Allah has created time. Allah is above time. Ashab al-Kahf, those youngsters, they took refuge in the cave, they went to sleep. وَكَذَلِكَ بَعَثْنَاهُمْ لِيَتَسَاءَلُوا بَيْنَهُمْ قَالَ قَائِلٌ مِّنْهُمْ كَمْ لَبِثْتُمْ قَالُوا لَبِثْنَا يَوْمًا وَبَعْضَ يَوْمٍ. They woke up after a long sleep. Then a discussion took place. How long did we sleep? How long is it possible for anyone to sleep? 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours? Youngsters nowadays, mashallah, can sleep very long. But eventually, you need to relieve yourself, back will pain, head will pain. How long can a person sleep? So someone said one day, someone said a portion of one day. What was the reality? I'm digressing. This incident is mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf. This is the night of Jumu'ah. Allah's Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, with regards to this night, for example, Hamim ad-Dukhan. Hamim ad-Dukhan, 25th juz of the Quran, one surah, 3 or 4 pages, depending on one's proficiency, how he recites Quran, will just take a few minutes. This is an opportunity. What does Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say? Man qara'a Hamim ad-Dukhan laylat al-Jumu'ah ghufira lahu. O kama qala an-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said that person who will recite this surah, few minutes, that person who will recite this surah on the night of Jumu'ah, ghufira lahu, Allah will forgive all his sins. Opportunity upon opportunity Allah gives. Surah Kahf. Such a fitna is coming. Such a fitna is coming. That Allah's Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam described this fitna. He said, Sharru ghaibin yuntadhar. He said, Shar, this is the worst fitna that the ummah is waiting for. What was the fitna he was referring to? The fitna of Dajjal. Such a fitna. Such a fitna. Dajjal will cut the body of a man into 2 pieces in front of you. And then on one command of Dajjal, Allah will give him that ability, will make it such, this body will come together and the dead person will come to life. That kind of fitna and test, this coronavirus, it is said all the coronavirus of the whole world put together will fit in one can. This is such a tiny makhluk of Allah, such a tiny creation of Allah that it cannot be seen. Virus are very, very small, you can't see them. Yet, when coronavirus, what happened? We were running helter-skelter. Masjids got empty. Allah's ibadat went out of the window. Our entire deen and shariat got upended. That is a fitna. Allah protect us. A fitna which we couldn't see. And many of us, Allah protect us, lost our deen, lost our direction. That which Allah sent, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, so that you come back to Allah, made us run away from Allah. We can't see that fitna, and that is what happened. Imagine Dajjal. Imagine what a test that will be. Allah protect us from such a test. Yet, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, recite Surah Kahf on the day of Jumu'ah, and Allah will protect you from the fitna of Dajjal. A pillar of light will be erected for you from the earth right up to the arsh of Allah. What is this? Opportunities upon opportunities upon opportunities that Allah is giving us. Al-khayru katheer. Al-khayru katheer. Mafhum of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Al-khayru katheer. He said the opportunities of doing good are many. Opportunities of earning Allah's forgiveness. Opportunities of getting great reward from Allah are many. Read your Fajr Salah with Jamaat. Read your Isha Salah with Jamaat. Man salla al-Isha fi Jama'ah فكأنما قام نصف الليل ومن صلى الصبح في جماعة فكأنما صلى الليل كله. Look at Allah's forgiveness. Look at Allah's mercy. Read your Isha Salah with Jamaat. Allah will reward you as if you spend half the night in tahajjud. Read your Fajr Salah with Jamaat as if the whole night was spent in Ibadat. Al-khayru kathir. My Nabi said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the opportunities of earning reward, of getting the forgiveness of Allah, of getting the closeness of Allah, kathir, are many, many, many opportunities. What is the tragedy? What is the travesty? What is the sad reality? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, qalilun fa'iluhu. Al-khayru kathir, qalilun fa'iluhu. He said, very few of my ummah will take advantage of these opportunities. Very few of my ummah will take advantage of these opportunities. Allah is giving us, you can't count the opportunities. Like I said, I was digressing. Allah mentions the incident of these youngsters in Surah Kahf. How long did we sleep? One day or a portion of one day. Again, I'm digressing. What is ajib in the surah? Quran is ajib. Quran is bahrun la sahila lahu. It's a limitless ocean. Unfortunately, we cannot possibly lament sufficiently today the lack of munasabat, association and attachment of the ummah with the Quran. Most of my bayans, I mentioned this. Someone sent me one message. They say two people were traveling. One person started reading Quran. So the person next to him tapped him and asked him, brother, has someone died? He said, yes. Your heart has died. Like plants, like vegetation need water to grow. Without water, they will not survive. By Allah's qasam, this qalb, this dil, this heart needs the water of the Quran. Otherwise, it is a dead heart. This heart needs the Quran, the attachment with the Quran. Usman Taymi rahimahullah says, I entered the haram of Makkah. Ghaliban, it was the month of Ramadan. I saw Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu reading Tahajjud Salah. I stood behind him. This justaju, this curiosity was piqued within me that how much Quran would Usman read in his Tahajjud Salah. He says Usman started from Surah Fatiha. By Allah's qasam, he did not go into ruku until he reached Surah Nas. The entire Quran in one rakat of Tahajjud Salah. And what would Usman radiallahu ta'ala say? Lo tahurat qulubukum. Lo tahurat qulubukum. Ma shabi'tum min kalamillahi azza wa jal. He would say, if your hearts were pure. If your hearts were pure, you would never ever get tired of listening to Quran. Our youth nowadays, both ears are clogged. Both ears are clogged. And the body is jiving to haram music for hours on end. The heart is finding so-called satisfaction in that. Tell someone to hold his urine back and stand 12 hours in his shop when his business is busy. He can do that. Tell the same person, sit 20 minutes in the halqa of ta'lim in your masjid. What happens? That is difficult. 20 minutes in the halqa of ta'lim is difficult. Sitting after a farz salah a little while in the masjid to make Allah's zikr has become difficult. Sitting with the Quran has become difficult. Stand in the shop 10, 12, 14 hours. Sit in front of that shaitan box that has polluted the homes of the ummah. Till 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, instrument of zina. Hours upon hours. Look at 22 people chasing behind a piece of pig skin for hours and hours. That is easy. What is this? This is the alamat. This is a sign. This is an indication. You can go to a cardiologist. Cardiologist will use his instruments. He'll do the necessary tests, do a ECG or do an angiogram, and he'll tell you that listen, 1 artery is blocked, 2 arteries blocked, 3 arteries blocked, you need a stent, or you need urgent bypass surgery, or you have a healthy heart. Cardiologists can use those instruments that they can tell you physically the heart. But there's no cardiologist that can use any instrument that can tell you that listen, by all 4 arteries are blocked and clogged with the love of dunya. We're looking at haram and listening to haram, and there's a roving gaze upon haram and chasing behind this dunya. Outwardly, ostensibly, the cardiologist may give you a healthy report that mashallah your heart is very healthy, but in the eyes of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that heart is a dead heart. That heart is a heart in urgent need of surgery. There's no instrument. There's no instrument, no cardiologist has, medical science has not produced such an instrument that is going to tell you that. But the alamat, these are the signs. When Quran is read, where is my heart? At the time of tahajjud, where is my heart? In the halaqat of ta'aleem, in the talks of deen, when Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam name is taken, where is my heart? The day I didn't get my cup of tea or my caffeine fix, my head doesn't work. The day I didn't read Surah Yasin in the morning, or I didn't read my section of the Quran, how is it that day is okay for me? Is that cup of tea or that cup of coffee become more essential to me than Allah's kalam? This is the alama, this is the indication. The heart is alive or the heart is dead. Usman radiyallahu ta'ala لو طهرت قلوبكم ما شبعتم من كلام الله عز وجل. If your hearts were pure, you would never get tired of listening to Quran. Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala used to say, لو صحت أبدانكم ومرضت قلوبكم لكنتم أهون على الله من الجعلان. What is this? This is not physical ailment, whether it's the heart, or whether it's the eyes, or whether it's the ears. It's not physical. He would say, لو صحت أبدانكم. If your body is healthy, sahih, healthy, but the heart is sick. The heart is sick. Allah speaks of this in the Quran. لا تعمل أبصار. لا تعمل أبصار. Allah says the eyes are not blind. In other words, the physical eyes can see. The physical hearing is there. But the gaze is not a gaze of ibrat. The hearing is not a hearing of ibrat. He sees the janazah. After Asr Salah, some relative passed away, so he's in the masjid. He sees the janazah, attends that janazah salah, but this much perception doesn't enter the heart that at the time of Maghrib he comes back to the masjid. What is this? This is blindness, this is deafness, this is lack of comprehension, but not physical. Not physical. Physically he can see. Physically he can hear. Physically the mind is thinking all the time, working. But the gaze of ibrat is not there. The listening of ibrat is not there. The thinking of ibrat and taking lesson from what is around us, that is not there. And that is what Allah refers to when Allah says, Summun, Bukmun, Umyun, Fahum la yaqilun. Deaf, dumb, blind, they will never understand. Deaf, dumb, blind, they will never understand. La ta'mal absar. لا تعمل أبصار ولكن تعمل قلوب التي في الصدور. Allah says the eyes are not blind, the physical eyes are not blind, they can see. But ولكن تعمل قلوب التي في الصدور. تعمل قلوب التي في الصدور. The heart has become blind. This heart has, wallah, my respected brothers, I'm digressing. These a'mal of dawat, this environment of dawat, this call, shabguzari, this attaching yourself to the masjid, the a'mal, whether it is dawat, ta'aleem, ibadat, khidmat, do not take these a'mal lightly. By the qasam of my Allah, this is the water to give this heart life. This is the hayat of the qalb. This is to make this heart a living heart. Today it's a dead heart. This is why all the signs are there around us, but the heart is not taking effect. We are not affected by these things. Why? Because it is a dead heart. It is a heart of ghaflat. And ghaflat, another way to understand ghaflat, Allah protect us, is ulama use the term qasiyul qalb, when the heart becomes hard. When the heart becomes hard, when it is a dead heart. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of the hadith, he said, there is nothing that distances a man more from Allah. There is nothing that distances a man more from Allah than qasiyul qalb, than when his heart becomes hard. When the heart is no longer taking effect. When it is a heart of ghaflat. وَلَقَدْ ذَرَأْنَا لِجَهَنَّمَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا وَلَهُمْ أَعْيُنٌ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ بِهَا وَلَهُمْ آذَانٌ لَا يَسْمَعُونَ بِهَا أولئك كالأنعام بل هم أضل أولئك هم الغافلون. Allah protect us. Allah says these are those, the residents of Jahannam. وَلَقَدْ ذَرَأْنَا لِجَهَنَّمْ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ. What is the alamat? They have hearts, they have minds, but they fail to comprehend. They have eyes, but they cannot see. They have ears, but they cannot. What? As I mentioned, what is Quran referring? Not that he's blind or he's deaf physically. The gaze of ibrat is not there. The listening of ibrat is not there. Azan is heard. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allah, he hears the azan. He hears the azan, yet that hearing does not translate itself into amal. That hearing doesn't cause him to come to the masjid. He has eyes, he can see. On his way to work, every day he passes the qabristan. Every day he passes the graveyard. He looks at those graves. Who are the residents of those graves? There's no distinction that if you came in a certain sequence, you're going to leave in a certain sequence. Youngsters, old, literate, illiterate, different races, different nationalities, different occupations, different backgrounds. They also used to pass the graveyard. Someone in his car, someone on his motorcycle, someone holding the hand of somebody else, laughing and joking. They also pass. Those graves are calling out. What was the dua Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us? Assalamu alaikum ya ahl al-qubur min al-muslimin. Yaghfirullahu lana wa lakum. Antum salafuna wa nahnu bil athar. And he taught us this. That every time you go to the graveyard, say to those residents, Antum salafuna, you are gone ahead, we are just behind you. We are coming also. That manzar and scene is supposed to remind you. One janazah was going, someone asked Abu Darda radiyallahu ta'ala, whose janazah is that? He said, brother, that is your janazah. Brother, that is your janazah. And if you don't like what I'm saying, take it as my janazah. لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. They have minds but they do not comprehend. They have eyes but they cannot see. They have ears but they cannot hear. They are like animals. I am not saying this. Allah is saying. أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ. Animals to some extent have recognized their creator. So no, بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ. No, more, even more deviated than animals. And what is the root of it? What is the root of this? أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْغَافِلُونَ. غفلت. غفلت. يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. They know the intricacies of this dunya. Today you'll find a person far away from deen, but profuse, mind-boggling knowledge of the nuances, basic nuances of life. He's an IT expert, he's this expert, he's that expert. يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Dunya, they know everything. وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ هُمْ غَافِلُونَ. But of akhirat they have become ghafil. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْغَافِلُونَ. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْغَافِلُونَ. Quran is hayat for this heart. Quran is the life for this heart. Today the ummah, this is the cry of our elders. They say, Aaj Quran ek na ashna pegham ban chuki. They say Quran has become an irrelevant message to us. That Quran was given to this ummah. That my Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man ja'alahu amamahu saqahu ila al-jannah, wa man ja'alahu khalfahu qadahu ila an-nar." He said, if my ummah will keep the Quran in front of them, this Quran will not leave them until it takes them right into Jannah. Such a Quran this ummah was given. And if my ummah will turn their backs on this Quran, if my ummah will turn their backs on this Quran, the same Quran will take them to Jahannam. وقال الرسول يا ربي إن قوم اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا. وقال الرسول who? Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, rahmatul lil alameen, wama arsalnaka illa, ma and illa, when it comes together in one sentence, it creates a meaning of total exclusivity. Like we say in Urdu, sirf or sirf, sirf or sirf. Allah is saying we sent him as nothing, nothing, nothing but rahmat and mercy. Wama arsalnaka illa rahmatan lil alameen. That same Zat who head to toe was rahmat and mercy. More rahmat and mercy than our own mothers and fathers. Yet, he was hurt so much by this. Hurt so much by this that the day is coming. Quran says, وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam will complain in Allah's court, Ya Rabbi, O my Allah, inna qawmi, my ummat, ittakhadhu hadha al-Qur'ana mahjura, turn their backs on this Quran. The word Quran uses is mahjura, not matruka. To leave something, taraka yatruk in Arabic is to leave something, abandon something. He will not say matruk, he will say mahjura. Hijran is to behave as if something doesn't even exist. Science, technology, technological advancements, statements by so-called intelligentsia. No problem if you want to study all that. No problem if you want to study all that, but don't do it at the expense of Quran. And understand that any statement of any scientist or any academia, when it comes into conflict with the Quran, by the qasam of my Allah, what that person is saying is a lie. The Quran does not lie. وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ قِيلًا وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حَدِيثًا وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا لَا مُبَدِّلَ لِكَلِمَاتِهِ لَا تَبْدِيلَ لِكَلِمَاتِ اللَّهِ إِنَّهُ لَقَوْلٌ فَصْلٌ وَمَا هُوَ بِالْهَزْلِ حَمِيمٌ وَالْكِتَابِ الْمُبِينِ إِنَّا جَعَلْنَاهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ لَا يَأْتِيهِ الْبَاطِلُ مِنْ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ وَلَا مِنْ خَلْفِهِ Tanzeelum min Hakimin Hamid. This is Quran. Allah's name is Noor. Allah called the Quran Noor. Wattaba'un Noor alladhi unzila ma'a. Allah's name is Hakim. Allah called the Quran Hakim. Yasin wal Quran al Hakim. Allah's name is Majid. Allah called the Quran Majid. Qaf wal Quran al Majid. My Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Innakum la tarji'una ila Allahi bi shay'in afdal mimma kharaja minhu. You will never find Allah. You will never get the closeness of Allah. You will never connect with Allah. You will never get the love of Allah with anything more virtuous and more effective than that Quran which came from Allah. لا ترجعون إلى الله بشيء أفضل مما خرج منه إن لله تعالى أهلين من الأرض. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah has ahl, Allah has family members amongst the creation. This is not literal. This is not literal. Allah is above all this. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. This is just for our understanding. What is the connotation of ahl? When you say, he is from my kumbha, he is my person, he is mine. In other words, if you oppose him, you are opposing me. If you will trouble him, you are troubling me. Why? He is my person. Such a virtue, such an ajeeb connotation in this. Ahlullah, inna lillahi ahlina min al-ard. My Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, Allah has His people amongst the creation. They are Allah's people. Hum ahlullah, khassatuhu. They are the chosen of Allah. They are the special ones of Allah. They are the VIPs of Allah. To go against them now, na'uzubillah, is to go against Allah. Manhum, who are they? Hum Ahlul Quran. He said it is the people of the Quran. Such a Quran this ummah was given. Dawat of Anbiya alayhimus salatu wassalam was the Quran. This work of Dawat and Tabligh is to bring the ummah back to the Quran. This is why it is the cry and the lament of our elders, establish قال Allah, قال Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam in every home of the ummah. We don't like to speak about these things from the mimbar, but today you walk into a Muslim home, what's the first thing you see? Illa mashallah, there are few exceptions, but generally, you walk into a Muslim home, that plasma screen. Now they got curved plasma screens, millions of pixels, high definition images. What is it in reality? An instrument of zina. Father, mother, children sitting together, teenage children sitting with the parents and looking at zina taking place. Before, outside the house, before the threat to Iman was outside the house, Allah forgive us, today we have brought the threat into our homes. With our own hands we have become the architects that are destroying the morality of our children, morality of our youth, morality of the next generation. Because listen with the ears of Iman, whether we like it or we don't like it. Allah forgive me, I'm saying in advance. Listen with the ears of Iman. If there is no haya, if there is no haya, if there is no haya and shame, there is no Islam and deen. Call it whatever you want. Al-Iman wal-Haya'u Qurana'u Jami'a. My Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Iman and Haya can never be separated. Iman and Haya can never be separated. Qurana'u Jami'a. Idha rufi'a ahaduhuma rufi'a al-akhar. If there is no Haya, there is no Iman. Al-Haya'u la ya'ti illa bi khayr. Al-Haya'u khayrun kulluhu. My Nabi said, Haya is every good. And what is the essence of Haya? What is the essence of haya? Lower your gaze. Lower your gaze. This boyfriend, girlfriend culture. This culture of intermingling. This culture of intermingling. This culture of having this attitude that na'uzubillah, summa na'uzubillah, that was the camel age, this is the space age. Islam is a contemporary religion. Islam keeps up with the times. We are not sister haters. All these fancy titles, behind it is what? Behind it is a drive. Behind it is a drive to make pork halal. To make something that Shariat has made haram into halal. Inna li kulli deenin khuluqa. Inna li kulli deenin khuluqa. Inna li kulli deenin khuluqa. My Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said every religion, every Shariat, every deen has an akhlaq. It has a morality. It has a distinguishing and a defining characteristic. If you want to find that religion, you have to find this. Otherwise it is not that. That is what this hadith means. And he says, khuluqul Islami al-haya. He said the akhlaq, the morality, the defining characteristic, the shining emblem of my deen Islam is haya. If there is no haya, there is no deen. If there is no haya, there is no iman. If there is no haya, there is no Islam. Such a jewel, such a jewel, such a taqat, such a power. On the one hand, the poison of intermingling, the poison of behayai, the poison of a roving gaze. Allah's qasam, such a poison is created that no serum in this world will ever be able to alleviate the effects of that poison. And on the other hand, if you will learn to lower our gaze, lower your gaze, lower your gaze. Hadith Qudsi, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, Allah says, my Allah says, An-nadhratu sahmun masmum min sihami iblis. The gaze is the most poisonous, the most destructive, the darkest, the greatest threat of all the threats of shaitan is this gaze. An-nadratu sahmun masmum min sihami iblis. And then, Allahu Akbar, look at the mercy of Allah. Man tarakaha min makhafati. Man tarakaha min makhafati. If you will lower your gaze out of my khawf. If you will lower your gaze, cloak yourself with the cloak of haya and shame and modesty. Like I remember a few years ago, our Jamaat was in Singapore. There's one youngster. He was telling us, he says, when I go university, I look down. So then the Muslim, not non-Muslim, Muslim sisters, they say you're a sister hater. What are you doing? You're looking down. What's down there? What's down there? What you can see down there? Why don't look up? He says, when I look down, I can see the qabr. Accountability. يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ. May Allah says, every time your eye strays, it is in the knowledge of Allah. يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ. And that which your heart is hiding, that which your heart is concealing, that also is in the knowledge of Allah. Man tarakaha min makhafati. Lower your gaze out of the khawf of Allah. And what does my Allah say? Abdaltuhu imanan yajidu halawatahu fi qalbi. What is the mafhum? Not literal translation. What is the mafhum of this hadith? That each one has been given that power, that taqat, has been given that jewel, that if you will utilize it, if you will harness it, if you will develop this jewel which Allah has given you, Allah has kept within each ummati this power to subjugate the malaika also. Allah has given you the power to put the malaika of the heavens and the earth in your service. Allah has given you the power to change the direction of the winds. Allah has given you the power to change the seasons also. Allah has given you the power to reach directly to the arsh of Allah. Lower your gaze. أَبْدَلْتُهُ إِيمَانًا يَجِدُ حَلَاوَتَهُ فِي قَلْبِهِ. Allah says, mafhum of the hadith, I will make your salah as if you are making the salah in Jannah. Your tahajjud will become Jannat. Your tilawat will become Jannat. Your ibadat of Allah will become Jannat. We will give you the lazzat and ecstasy of Jannat in this world, if you will lower your gaze. This is why it is a cry of our elders, Maulana Ahmed Hassan Sahib Rahmatullah Alayhi, when someone asked him, Hazrat, all this masturat effort that's taking place in the entire world, masturat jamaats are coming out, masturat programs, so much of effort is taking place. What is nichor? What's the maqsad? What's the object? Why is what is behind all this? What a simple answer he gave. And yet this is the root. He said, Garo ki ta'aleem, garo ki ta'aleem, garo ki ta'aleem. Bring alive the halaqat and the muzakara of Iman in every home of the Ummah. In the name of technological advancement today, techno gadgets have entered the homes of the Ummah. We don't like to talk of these things. But such techno gadgets that husband and wife will be sharing the same bed. Husband is making zina with someone, wife is making zina with someone else. That kind of zulmat and darkness in the name of technological and scientific advancement. Simple example, the cell phones. It's another topic, I don't want to go into the details. Something that was a necessity has become a musibah. The whole life is revolving around it. It's taken over us. Something's supposed to serve you, you are serving it. This is what Allah says, لا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله فأنساهم أنفسهم. Do not become like those who forgot Allah. Do not become like those who forgot Allah. What will Allah do? What is Allah's azab if you forget Allah? Allah doesn't say we will send the flood of Nuh alayhi salam, or we'll send the angels, or the screech of the angels, or we'll upend the earth, or what? First azab, azab of Allah. What does Allah say? Ansahum anfusahum. You forget Allah, we will make you forget yourself. Your life will become meaningless, a relentless, blind rat race. You don't know day, you don't know night, you don't know what's front, you don't know what's behind. Today the man is sitting in a toilet also, and still the cell phone is going on. Like one person puts it, he said, before from the toilet one sound used to come, now two sounds are coming. Hello, hello, he's making inside the toilet. When's the next container coming, next parcel going to be delivered? What type of an existence is this? Where is time to remember Allah? Time for ibadat, time for your family. This is why our elders are saying, establish the halaqat of ta'aleem. Qala Allah, Qala Rasul, this panacea, this sukoon, this peace, this itminan, this wind of mercy. This wind of mercy in this day and age and era has been given to the ummah. Make every home a markaz of iman. Bring the noor of Allah's kalam, the words of Allah, the words of His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam in every home of the ummah. This is the investment. Otherwise what the person says when he walks into his teenage son's room, the son turns around and says, you walked into my room without permission. You invaded my privacy. Then after that he's running to the Jamaat and running to the Shaykh and running looking for taweez and running here. What were the seeds that we planted? What were the seeds that we planted? Where was the effort made to bring that environment in the home, to make that youngster understand what is a mother, what is a father? Imam Shafi rahimahullah, great muhaddis, great scholar. One day he's kissing the feet of his mother. He has thousands of students. Mother gets embarrassed. My son, what are you doing? How can you kiss my feet? What is his response? He says, my mother, I'm not kissing my feet. You're kissing your feet. I am kissing my Jannat. Innal Jannata tahta aqdamil ummahat. My Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, if you want to find Jannat, if you want to find Jannat, if you want to find Jannat, you will find it underneath the feet of your mother. He said the most conducive door to Jannat, the most conducive door to Jannat is your father. He said protect that door or destroy the door is up to you. Where is that effort to introduce this in every home of the ummah? If a garden is left untended, there will be weeds. It will overrun that garden. Effort has to take place. And this is the call of our elders, the cry of our elders, the lament of our elders. Establish halaqat of ta'aleem in every home of the ummah. This is not for others, this is for you and I. This is our need. Our need. This is hayat of the qalb. The talks of Allah's greatness. Bring this on our tongue. Bring this in every home of the ummah. Munasabat with the Quran, attachment with the Quran. Let it be that when you walk into a Muslim home, you must hear the Quran. This is the investment, this is the noor, this is the light, this is the value. Such a Quran this ummah was given. I digressed. When Allah speaks of the youngsters of the cave, what does Allah say? Today when you get upset with little children, they're not sleeping, it's sleeping time. What do you tell them? Say, close your eyes. Close your eyes and sleep. It's a normal, natural statement. Why? Because we associate sleep with, of the five senses, the sense that we attach most to a human's ability to sleep away is that of sight. Yet what does the Quran say? فَضَرَبْنَا عَلَىٰ آذَانِهِمْ فِي الْكَهْفِ سِنِينَ عَدَدًا. Allah says we seal their hearing. We seal their hearing in order to enable them to sleep. Now a few years ago, Colorado University, they did research. They found that the last section of the brain, even a person after he dies, the last section of the brain that switches off is that section which governs hearing. The last sense that switches off is hearing, not sight. Allah's Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam 14 centuries ago, he said, as you leave the grave, the mayyit can hear your footsteps. In Badr, when the Sanadid of Quraysh, their bodies were thrown into the well, Allah's Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam addressed them. Sahabi said, Ya Rasulullah, they are dead. How is it you are speaking to them? He said, by the oath of that being in whose hands lies the life of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Like you can hear me, they can hear me. فَضَرَبْنَا عَلَىٰ آذَانِهِمْ فِي الْكَهْفِ سِنِينَ عَدَدًا. Allah says we seal their hearing in order to enable them to sleep. They got up. How long did we sleep? One day, portion of one day. What was the reality? وَلَبِثُوا فِي كَهْفِهِمْ ثَلَاثَمِائَةٍ سِنِينَ وَازْدَادُوا تِسْعًا. Allah says they slept for 309 years. 309 years. Time. That period of time, what happens? short period of time also, with the movement of time, changes occur to the physical self of a person. Your nails grow, your hair grows, your body grows. These are signs of the movement of time. What was astonishing about those youngsters, they went to sleep at the age of 15. Hair's growth on the head is of a 15-year-old. Body growth of a 15-year-old. Signs of the passage of time of a 15-year-old. Wakes up 309 years later, his age is not 324, still 15. Hair has not grown, nails have not grown, no part of the body has grown. It's still 15. Why? Because outside the cave the clock ticked, inside the cave Allah stopped time. Time is Allah's makhluk. Allah is above time. These are Allah's creations. إذ قال الله يا عيسى إني متوفيك ورافعك إلي ومطهرك من الذين كفروا وجاعل الذين اتبعوك فوق الذين كفروا إلى يوم القيامة ثم إلي مرجعكم فأحكم بينكم فيما كنتم فيه تختلفون. Allah says, Isa alayhi salam, 33 years of age, we raised him up. وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ. They did not kill him, nor did they crucify him. The affair was mixed up for them. Allah raised him up at the age of 33. More than 5 centuries passed. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's nubuwwat occurs. 14 centuries have passed since then. 2,000 years have passed. Qurb as-Sa'a, close to Qiyamah, Isa alayhi salam will be sent back down to the world. When Allah raised him up, he was 33. When he will come back, he will still be 33. We cannot comprehend the qudrat of Allah, the power of Allah. There is no shape or form that is in keeping with human understanding or principles by which we can cover or color Allah's greatness, Allah's jabarut, Allah's azmat, Allah's kibriyai. Allahu Akbar. We hear the muazzin. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. What is Akbar? Like in Arabic, like in English, you get big, bigger, biggest. Akbar, biggest. Kabir means big, Akbar means big. This does not do justice to describing Allah. Doesn't mean the earth is small, Allah is big. Sky is small, Allah is big. Sun is smaller. Ulama say that ye to bachcho wali yaqeen hai. That is the yaqeen and conviction of a little child to use these examples or to try to even comprehend Allah in this way. What Allahu Akbar? What does this actually mean? If you want to get an idea of what it means, 2 verses of the Quran. Allah says, وَلَوْ أَنَّ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ مِنْ شَجَرَةٍ أَقْلَامٍ وَالْبَحْرُ يَمُدُّهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ سَبْعَةُ أَبْحُرٍ مَا نَفِدَتْ كَلِمَاتُ اللَّهِ. The other verse, قُلْ لَوْ كَانَ الْبَحْرُ مِدَادًا لِكَلِمَاتِ رَبِّي لَنَفِدَ الْبَحْرُ قَبْلَ أَن تَنْفَدَ كَلِمَاتُ رَبِّي وَلَوْ جِئْنَا بِمِثْلِهِ مَدَدًا. Put these 2 verses together and look at the analogy that Quran is giving. وَلَوْ أَنَّ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ مِنْ شَجَرَةٍ. Allah says all the trees. This ma that's found in this verse does not mean the current trees on the surface of the earth. It means from the time the universe was created till now and right up till Qiyamah, all the vegetation, all the trees. And not just that of the earth. This 24,000 kilometer ball is only 21% land. It is 79% ocean. The makhluk and the creation of the ocean is more than the land. Currently they estimate there are 3 trillion trees on the land. 3 trillion trees on the land. The vegetation in the ocean is even more than that. Pacific Ocean or Atlantic Ocean, by Bermuda, Philippines, it is said the water runs 11 kilometers deep. We cannot comprehend how many makhluk Allah has kept. 1 cubic centimeter water of the oceans contains more living organisms than the number of human beings on the surface of the earth. More than 7 billion makhluk organisms Allah has kept in 1 cubic centimeter of water of the oceans. Sunlight penetrates, They say up to 800 meters. Remnants of it up to 1 kilometer. Even a submarine, if it is submerged in the water, tons of steel. Yet such is the pressure of the ocean, that most a submarine can go is 400 or 500 meters. If it goes anything lower than that, like an egg is crushed, then tons of steel will be crushed. Such is the pressure that Allah has kept in the ocean. Yet 11 kilometers in the depths of the ocean, tiny makhluk of Allah, tiny fish. There's no sunlight there, total complete darkness. With darkness, even if you have sight, even if your eyes are working, you can't see. Why? It's dark. How those fish are seen? And then, Allahu Akbar, one marine biologist says that every 500 meters, the salinity and the chemical composition of the water changes. So that the makhluk that is contained, the fish and the vegetation that is contained in this 500 meters is different from the one below it and different from the one above it. We cannot comprehend the vastness of Allah's creation. Allah says, if the waters of the oceans have to turn into pens, add another the waters of the oceans have to turn into ink, add another 7 oceans to that. And then all this vegetation on the earth, 3 trillion, the vegetation of the ocean, from the time the universe was created. How old is this universe? Scientists estimate, true, Allah knows best. They use carbon dating, but a lot of what they say is guesswork. But if you fire 100 arrows in the dark, 1 or 2 will hit the target. That's logical. So no harm in accepting it if it doesn't go in confrontation with the Quran. Some say 14.7 billion. Some say 25 billion years is the age of this universe. All the vegetation that ever grew, that will grow right up till Qiyamah. This is what Quran is saying. All that has to turn into pens. The waters of the ocean into ink. Add another 7 oceans to that. And then say to the entire insan, say to the entire jinnat, right now, using what? Using your intellect, this brain. This brain is just a piece of flesh. Allah's tajalli was directed to it, 100 billion nerve cells interconnected. But the average human being in his entire life will only use 4 to 5, sometimes 6, 7% of his brain. Einstein, when they exhumed his body, they found he used 11.2% of his brain. Just for our understanding, sometimes this question is asked. I notice, mashallah, Canada, a lot of people like to ask a lot of questions. They say when you ask questions also you have to be careful. Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi, I'm digressing, he had one student, Imam Muhammad bin Shayban rahimahullah, great student of Imam Abu Hanifa. He used to teach Dars. For 6 months there was one student who never asked a single question. So one day he got upset. He demonstrated with the student. What's wrong with you? 6 months you never asked a single question. Nothing piqued your curiosity. Nothing occurred to you. So he said, now that you're asking me, there is one question. So he says, what is the question? So he says, you said that when the sun sets we must pray Maghrib Salah. What happens if the sun doesn't set? Imam Muhammad told him, Sukutuka khairum min kalam. For you to keep quiet was better than you speak. Because before you asked this question, how little you knew, I had no idea. Now it's become apparent. So questions also, you have to be careful. Like a lot of people like to ask, what is more virtuous? What is more virtuous? What is more virtuous? Why are we asking? So we can leave one thing out. That is not the reason for the variation in virtue. Like someone asked Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi, that if I'm bathing in the pond, is it more virtuous for my face to be facing Qibla or my back to be facing Qibla? So he said, by the way you left your clothes, you rather face that, because somebody steals it, then you will have a problem. Don't worry about what is more virtuous. Nevertheless, I digress. Someone asked the question that if only 5 or 6 or 7% of the brain is used in the entire life, then why did Allah give us such a brain? What was the need? 93% is sleeping. The answer to this ulama give is that Allah gave you this brain because Allah created you for Jannat. And in Jannah, the brain will be opened up 100%. The brain will be opened up 100% for you to enjoy the pleasures and the ecstasies of Jannah. This is why you were given such a brain. But if Allah had to tune up the brain of every insan to 100%, every jinnat 100%, and then the rest of Allah's creation, whether it's the birds, whether it's the insects, whether it's the animals, what is Quran telling us? Kullun qad alima salatahu wa tasbiha. This is Quran. To doubt this is kufr. This is Quran. Kullun qad alima salatahu wa tasbiha. Every creation of Allah, Allah says we taught it its salah and we taught it how to praise Allah. Every creation. Sabbaha lillah ma fi samawati wa ma fil ard. Sabbaha lillah ma fi samawati wal ard. Yusabbihu lillahi ma fi samawati wa ma fil ard. Tusabbihu lillahi ma fi samawati wa ma fil ard. Quran, again and again, many places, Allah says every creation of Allah, everything in the heavens, everything in the earth, sabbaha, yusabbihu, sabbih, is praising Allah, will be praising Allah, and will continue praising Allah. تسبح له السماوات السبع والأرض ومن فيهن وإن من شيء إلا يسبح بحمده ولكن لا تفقهون تسبيحهم. Allah says you don't understand its tasbih, but every creation of Allah is incessantly engaged in the tasbih of Allah, praising Allah, glorifying Allah, singing the hymn, hymning the praises of Allah. Allah has to say to all these creations that you make talqeen, you advise insan and jinnat what to write, so that they don't have to pause even for 1 millisecond. And their mental capacity has been turned up, tuned up 100%. The rest of Allah's creation, they are giving talqeen, telling insan, telling jinnat what to write. And the galaxy of insan, malaika invited, Jibreel, Mikail, Israfil, Hamalatul Arsh, Israel, all the malaika, they also join this Jamaat. They also start writing. Insan starts writing. Not just insan, amongst insan, Anbiya alayhimu salatu wassalam, Adam alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, Musa alayhi salam, the galaxy of Anbiya alayhimu salatu wassalam. And then that personality whose knowledge was such, Quran says, Allah says, Allamaka ma lam takun ta'lam. فَأَوْحَى إِلَىٰ عَبْدِهِ مَا أَوْحَى. Allah says we opened up the ulum of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. How much knowledge? Allah doesn't quantify it. Allah says ma oha. This ma oha means imagine whatever you want. You will not be able to comprehend what knowledge we blessed Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam with. That kind of knowledge that Wahab bin Munabbah rahimahullah says, Inna Allah ta'ala lam yu'ti jami'an nas min badi dunya ila inqidaiha min al-aqli fi jambi aqlihi illa ka habbati ramlin bayna rimali dunya. He says if the combined uqul, intelligence of every human being from Adam alayhi salam to the last person to come before Qiyamah had to be pulled together and equated to one grain of sand, then the aql and intelligence of Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam would be all the grains of sand on the surface of the earth. That kind of knowledge. His name given was Ahmad. What does Ahmad mean? The one who excels, who reaches the heights of the hamd and the praise of Allah. Yet he himself says, Allahumma la astati'u thana'an alayk anta kama athnayta ala nafsik. Oh Allah, I also cannot praise you as you ought to be. Every insan, every jinnat, galaxy of Anbiya alayhimu salatu wassalam. The trees have turned into pens, the waters have turned into ocean, the waters of the ocean have turned into ink, multiplied by another 7 oceans. Now the command from Allah, write. What must you write? Write the kalimat of Allah. Write the tarif of Allah. Write the praise of Allah. Write the kibriyai of Allah. Write the azmat of Allah. Write the jalal of Allah. This is a sign of the qasiyul qalb, of the hardness of the heart. This is a sign of looking at the daughters of others, listening to haram music, chasing behind the love of this dunya, that the heart has become such that today you tell someone, speak about Allah, he says, I don't know what to speak. Everything around us is shouting out. الله نور السماوات والأرض مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح المصباح في زجاجة الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار نور على نور نور على نور يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء. Allah is the nur. Allah is the light. Allah is the effulgence. Allah is the illumination of the heavens and the earth. Everything around us is shining with Allah's nur. Allah invites you, وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Look within yourself and you will find Allah's greatness. You don't have to go into a complex biological lesson. Just look at your fingertip. This fingertip, what is covering it? If you want to understand it, layman's term, a topi. What is this topi? The fingernails. Person can be Mr. Universe. Like nowadays, mashallah, youngsters, they like to pump irons, develop their physique, abs and biceps and triceps, and take chemicals and steroids. In fact, to some, this nasha, intoxication, of developing your outside to be very beautiful. Before it used to be females that were worried about their physical appearance. Nowadays you'll see gents salon. Gents salon. This is what they say, जब करने के काम नहीं करेंगे तो फिर न करने के काम करेंगे. When you don't do what you're supposed to do, then you'll end up doing what you're not supposed to do. Sahaba must be turning over in their graves. Gent salon, gent beauty salon. Rijal. When Allah refers to, Allah says, Rijal, men. La tulhihim tijara. ولا بيع عن ذكر الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة يخافون يوما تتقلب فيه القلوب والأبصار. These are men. Engagement in trade and commerce did not make them negligent of establishing salah and discharging their zakat. They fear the day when the eyeballs of men will be overturned. من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. These are whom Quran describes as men, not those that are cleaning themselves in front of the mirror this way and that way, so that you won't miss one session in the gym, but salah gets missed. More paband on that than this. This is when the ummah will lose its direction. I digress. Nevertheless, coming back to what we were discussing. Allah's sifat, Allah's attributes, Allah's great. Bring this on our tongues. Today you tell someone, speak about Allah. Allah protect us. Even person goes in gush, goes in mulaqat. I am so and so, I come from South Africa, or I come from this state, or I come from that place, and this is my background. I am a doctor, I am a lawyer, or these sathis are from here, these sathis from there, I am from that gam in India, or I speak this language, or whatever it is. A long ta'aruf takes place, and inshallah after salah there will be program in the masjid. In this entire exercise, where was Allah's greatness spoken of? Why has the mind and the heart become devoid of the capacity of comprehending Allah's greatness around us? Everything around you is shouting out. This fingernail, what is it? It's, like I said, in layman's term, it's like a topi, a covering. You can become the Miss Universe, Mr. Universe, physically strong. If Allah had to remove this topi, this covering, then Allah's qasam, physically you may be very, very strong, you won't be able to even pick up one pin. Why? Because this covering is not there on the 10 fingers. And what is this covering? This covering in reality, in our bodies there are 24 trillion blood cells. Every second 7 million blood cells die. Allah has put such a system in place that those 7 million blood cells are replaced every second. The ones that die, if they remain inside, there will be a source of disease. So the dead have to be taken out. The fingernails are the qabristan of the dead blood cells from your body. Such a system Allah has put into place. This fingertip, this is talking to you. Take this fingertip and place it on wood. It talks to you, tells you this is wood. Place it on carpet, it will tell you that it is carpet. Metal, it will tell you that it is metal. Something is fine, something is coarse, something is brittle, something is harsh, something is slimy. Variation of different textures, variation of different elements. How many different messages in a piece of flesh Allah has kept? That a tiny piece of flesh is telling you. Then you take this hand, place it on your wife, you get a different feeling. The heart speaks to you differently. Depends on what kind of relationship you got with your wife. But somebody place it on your brother, different feeling. On your sister, different feeling. On your friend, different feeling. Father, different feeling. Friend, mother, different. Place it on your enemy. From inside, a fire starts raging. This tiny piece of flesh talks to you. Then you cut it off. For whatever reason, accident occurs. It will grow back exactly the same. So that there are 100 ridges. 100 ridges on this fingertip. It is said to find 2 human beings. Where 2 out of the 100 are the same, you have to examine 4 people. To find 2 human beings where 3 out of the 100 ridges are the same, you have to examine 16 people. To find 2 human beings where all 100 ridges on the fingertip is the same, you will have to examine every human being that will live on the surface of this earth for the next 4 billion years. In that tiny space, Allah has created such exclusivity that no 2 are the same. And look at the cognizance Quran takes of this. Allah says, Bala, Qadirin, Ala, An Nusawwiya Banana. Don't doubt, your fingertip is not the same. Each one is not the same. Allah says, when we resurrect you on the day of judgment, that fingerprint will still be the same. Allah. Each one with his unique fingerprint, this scientific acknowledgement of the unique nature of the fingerprint, this was found out in the 17th century. 2 centuries ago, 14 centuries ago, in the Quran revealed upon Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Allah says, Bala qadirin ala an nusawwiya banana. Everything around us, whether it's within yourself, wa fi anfusikum afala tubsirun, whether it is external, sanurihim ayatina fil afaq wa fi anfusihim hatta yatabayyana lahum annahu al-haq. Allah says, we will show you our signs. We will show you our signs within yourself, in the horizon. Everything around us is shouting out, shining with the nur of Allah, with the effulgence of Allah, with the qudrat of Allah, with the power of Allah, that rain droplet. Average height of clouds, altitude is 1200 meters. Cumulonimbus is the name of one rain cloud. It contains 300 million tons of water. Allah says, وَالسَّحَابِ الْمُسَخَّرِ. Ayat, signs of Allah. Look at that suspended cloud. 300 million tons of water, more than the Niagara Falls. Why don't you drown? Why doesn't it rain down upon you at one time? Then, when Allah's command comes and that rain droplet has to start falling. What does Quran say? Anna sababna al-ma'a sabba. This anna, actually in this context is not logical that Quran uses this word. What it actually means, the nuance of this expression anna is observe the unique manner. Sababna al-ma'a sabba, that we send down the rainwater. What is Allah referring to? That something the size of a rain droplet, if it is dropped from 1200 meters high, logically by the time it reaches the ground it should be traveling at 558 kilometers per hour. Bullet travels at 1764 kilometers per hour. So 1/3 the speed of a bullet. In other words, a mini bomb, every rain droplet supposed to be. What will happen to your cars, to your roof, to your buildings, to your ground, to your head? What will happen? If it is left to fall according to how it is supposed to fall. Yet, Allah has placed speed breakers in the atmosphere, in the environment. Even just this wind, how is this wind happening? This earth is spinning 1,000 kilometers an hour, moving outwards 108,000 kilometers an hour. Where it gets the petrol from, where it gets the energy from. This earth, 108,000 kilometers an hour, spinning on its axis 1,000 kilometers. That speed is not inordinate. It is set, decreed. ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. Allah says all these things have been ordained and set by a Zat and a being, Aziz, Alim, who is mighty and has complete knowledge. It's not an accident. It's not happening of its own accord. Take Allah and His Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam out of the equation, and what happens? Like that fool Darwin, who lived from 1809 to 1883, he said his grandfather is a monkey. One cell, random selection, one cell randomly split into two, and then two into four, and suddenly insan and this whole world came into existence. Statements that are ludicrous are given credibility and acceptance. Why? Because the alternative is not acceptable. What's the alternative? The alternative is to make sujood before Allah. Is to accept the qudrat of Allah, the power of Allah. And that they are not prepared to do. So then you will get them spewing these type of theories forward. And they will look. They've been battling for centuries to try to prove this. But you can't prove a lie. How much effort how many more lies are you going to speak to prove one lie? And the sad reality is this ummah behaves as if we don't have the Quran. As if we don't have the ulum of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As if we don't have a direction. As if we don't have an imam. As if we don't have a role model. As if we don't have a guide. They were supposed to get their direction from us. We are looking to them for direction. This speed, 108,000 kilometers an hour, spinning on its axis 1,000 kilometers per hour, because of these twin movements, something that is spinning and moving out at that speed, automatically what will happen? A third motion will happen. The third motion is the tilting of this earth to the left and the right. 23.5 degrees to the left, 23.5 degrees to the right. This tilting causes the wind to come into existence. This tilting causes the 4 seasons to come into existence. This tilting causes the waves of the oceans to come into existence. This tilting, multitudes of benefits. There's no time to go into detail. Allah has put such a precise, such a perfect, such a beautiful system in front of us. And Quran again and again calls out, Inna fi dhalika la'ayat. 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 There are signs in this. لِقَوْمِ يَعْقِلُونَ لِقَوْمِ يَسْمَعُونَ لِقَوْمِ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ لِقَوْمِ يُؤْمِنُونَ أَنَّا تُؤْفَكُونَ أَنَّا يُؤْفَكُونَ أَنَّا تُسْحَرُونَ Allahu Akbar. بل هم قوم يعدلون تعالى الله عما يشركون قل هاتوا برهانكم إن كنتم صادقين أإله مع الله أي الله. Again and again Allah calls out. Where are you looking? In what direction are you going? Who gave you the air to breathe? Who gave you the eyes to see? أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْنِ وَلِسَانًا وَشَفَتَيْنِ. Didn't we give you a tongue? Didn't we give you ears? Didn't we give you a heart? Didn't we give you a mind? Didn't we give you comprehension? وَسَخَّرَ لَكُمُ الشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ وَسَخَّرَ لَكُمُ الشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ دَائِبَيْنِ وَسَخَّرَ لَكُمُ اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارَ وَآتَاكُم مِّن كُلِّ مَا سَأَلْتُمُوهُ وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا أَمَّنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ وَأَنزَلَ لَكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً وَأَنْبَتْنَا بِهِ حَدَائِقَ ذَاتَ بَهْجَةٍ مَا كَانَ لَكُمْ أَن تُنْبِتُوا شَجَرَهَا أَإِلَٰهٌ مَّعَ اللَّهِ بَلْ هُمْ قَوْمٌ يَعْدِلُونَ أَمَّنْ جَعَلَ الْأَرْضَ قَرَارًا وَجَعَلَ خِلَالَهَا أَنْهَارًا وَجَعَلَ لَهَا رَوَاسِيَ وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ حَاجِزًا أَإِلَٰهٌ مَّعَ اللَّهِ بَلْ قَلِيلًا مَّا يُؤْمِنُونَ أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ وَيَجْعَلُكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ أإله مع الله بل أكثرهم لا يؤمنون أمن يبدأ الخلق ثم يعيده ويرزقكم من السماء والأرض أإله مع الله قل هاتوا برهانكم إن كنتم صادقين. Look at the manner again and again. Allah calls out. Allah appeals to your intellect. Allah is Allahu Akbar. No time to go into translation. We're running out of time. One place in the Quran, Allah calls out, Ya ayyuhal insan. Ya ayyuhal insan. Ma gharraka bi rabbikal kareem. Alladhi khalaqaka fasawwaka fa'adalak fi ayyi surah ma sha'a rakkab. Allah doesn't say, Ya ayyuhal mu'minun, Ya ayyuhal muttaqun, Ya ayyuhal mutahajjidun, Ya ayyuhal sa'imun. Allah does not say, oh, that person who makes tahajjud, oh, that person who is obedient to his Allah, oh, that person who fasts all the... No, Allah says, Ya ayyuhal insan, general, oh, humanity. What does humanity mean? Contains the kafir also. Contains that person who's every day is in sharab, every night is in zina. That person who is making dushmani and war with Allah. Allah calls out to that person also, Ya ayyuhal insan. Rabbikal kareem. I am your Rabb. I am your sustainer. I am your nourisher. I am your provider. I love you more than your mother. Kareem, I am generous to you. Khalaqa, fasawaka, fa'adalak. Look within yourself. Look at the proportion. Your eyes in perfect position. Your ears in perfect position. Your fingers in perfect position. Your 360 joints working in perfect position. The ability for you to walk. The ability for you to talk. Look within yourself. Your circulatory system. Circumference of the earth, 24,000 kilometers. The circulatory system of one human being, 92,000 kilometers long, 3 times the circumference of the earth. This heart, there's a size of, what is the size of a first? It's pumping the blood, 24 trillion cells, pumping it through 92,000 kilometers, so that this heart works in such a way that 3,000 to 5,000 trips are taking place every day. And still you don't make sujood to Allah. Still you don't recognize your Allah. Still you don't thank your Allah. Quran calls out. La ayat, they are signs. Ma gharraka bi rabbikal kareem. What has put you into a deception about your Allah? Shariat, Allah's commands were not given to you to create difficulty for you. This is fitrat. This is the natural way of life. In this is sukoon. In this is peace. In this is tranquility of the heart. We cannot quantify the favors and the bounties of Allah upon us. Why is this tongue dry of the zikr of Allah? Why is this eye devoid of seeing the qudrat of Allah? This ear has become deaf to listening the qudrat of Allah. This mind has become such that you cannot comprehend Allah's qudrat. Why? Looking at haram, listening to haram, planning haram, immersing ourselves, soiling this heart in the pursuit and the blind love of this dunya. That rain droplet, if it was left on its own, I'm digressing, time is running out. Something that is 1200 meters high should have been hitting the earth at 558 kilometers per hour. Such a complex system Allah put into place so that the speed of that rain droplet is cut and then cut and then cut and then cut and then cut. So that finally, when it reaches the ground, instead of 558 kilometers per hour, it's that soft, pitter-patter. It's traveling at 8 to 10 kilometers per hour. So that in each droplet of rainwater, as it strikes the ground, by the qasam of my Allah, it is shouting out, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah, Inna lihada al-khalqi khaliq, Inna lihadha al-khalqi khaliq. There is a creator. There is a creator behind this. There is a merciful, kind, compassionate Rabb behind this. This is not happening of its own accord. It's not just happening like that. Every one of these things is shouting out, Sanurihim ayatina fil afaq wa fi anfusihim hatta yatabayyana lahum annahu al-haq. This is why Hazrat Maulana Yusuf Sahib Rahmatullah Alayhi used to say, हम इसलिए नहीं कहते हैं कि अल्लाह की बड़ाई बयान करो, क्योंकि ये एक स्कीम है जिसके जरिए से आप लोगों को चिल्ले और तीन चिल्ले के लिए तैयार करेंगे. We are not saying to you speak of Allah's greatness because this is some scheme that the Tabligh Jamaat came up with to prepare people to go for 40 days and 4 months. No. हम इसलिए कहते हैं कि अल्लाह की बड़ाई बयान करो क्योंकि अल्लाह का हक है. क्योंकि अल्लाह का हक है कि उसकी तरह ना किया जाए. मखलूक का जिक्र बीमारी है, खालिक का जिक्र उसके इलाज है. We are saying to you, speak of Allah's greatness, hymn the praises of Allah, give da'wah towards Allah's greatness. Why? Because this is Allah's haq, this is Allah's right that His praises should be sung. To speak of the creation is a sickness. This politician is doing, that party is doing, that government is doing, this technology is doing, this is happening, that is happening. Antumul fuqara'u ilallah. Every one of you is faqir, useless, bankrupt, zero before Allah. Wallahu huwal ghani al-hamid. Ghani, independent of this entire creation, is only Allah. Abdullah bin Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, one day he passes a group of people. Passes by a group of people. They are huddled together, afraid. Why? Because there's a lion on the road blocking the thoroughfare. When he sees this manzar and scene, the Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam walks up to the lion. And then he addresses that lion. You are Allah's makhluk, you are Allah's creation. If Allah has ordained for you that any of your risk and sustenance is here amongst these people, then take your risk. And that if that is not the case, then stop being a nuisance and blocking the thoroughfare. And then he smacks the lion. The lion turns around dejectedly with his tail between its legs and it runs back into the jungle. Then Abdullah bin Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma comes up to those people. Sadaqa Rasulullah. Sadaqa Rasulullah. My Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam spoke the truth. Innama yusallatu ala ibn Adam ma khafahu ibn Adam. Walau anna ibn Adam lam yakhaf illa Allah lam yusallit alayhi ghayra. Wa innama wukila ibn Adam liman rajahu ibn Adam. Walau anna ibn Adam lam yarju illa Allah lam yakilhu ila ghayrihi. This is Allah's sunnah which He makes bayan of. In the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And when it comes to Allah's sunnah, this is Quran. وَلَن تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَبْدِيلًا وَلَن تَجِدَ لِسُنَّةِ اللَّهِ تَحْوِيلًا وَتَمَّتْ كلمة ربك صدقا وعدلا لا مبدل لكلماته لا تبديل لكلمات الله إنه لقول فصل وما هو بالهزل وَبِالْحَقِّ أَنزَلْنَا وَبِالْحَقِّ نَزَلْ. This is haqq. This is haqq. Accept it, don't accept it. Doubt it, don't doubt it. Do whatever you want. You will never be able to deviate or digress from Allah's sunnah. You will never be able to digress from the truth of Quran, from the truth of the words of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Sadaqa Rasulullah. My Nabi spoke the truth. You, insan, will be enslaved. You will be humiliated. You will be handed over to every entity that you will fear besides Allah. وَلَوْ أَنَّ ابْنَ آدَمْ لَمْ يَخَفْ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. If you will bring Allah's khawf, Allah's ta'alluq, Allah's ma'rifat, the recognition of Allah. What does this mean? If you will bring La ilaha illallah in this heart, وَلَوْ أَنَّ ابْنَ آدَمْ لَمْ يَخَفْ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. If you will fear nothing and no one but Allah, then no entity in this world will ever be able to humiliate or overpower. إِنَّمَا وَكِلَ ابْنُ آدَمْ لِمَنْ رَجَاهُ ابْنُ آدَمْ. If you will make the focus of this heart any entity besides Allah, that entity can solve my problem or alleviate my difficulty or help me or assist me. لا تدعوا مع الله أحدا. لا تدعوا مع الله أحدا. Do not stretch your hand out to anyone but Allah. When Allah was in the jungle, comes to a well, water is very low. What he does? Takes his amama out, ties his khuf, his leather socks, suspends it, still can't reach the water. Thirsty, sits one side, trying to figure out what to do. Few minutes later, a deer comes, an animal, looks down. Water is very low. Straight away, what does the animal do? Quran tells us, وَكَأَيٍّ مِّن دَابَّةٍ لَا تَحْمِلُ رِزْقَهَا اللَّهُ يَرْزُقُهَا وَإِيَّاكُمْ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. Those who feel you have to lie and cheat and deceive and get involved in riba and break Allah's command to earn your rizq and sustenance, your Allah calls out to you, why don't you observe the animal? Which animal do you see carrying its food of tomorrow? That Allah who fed the animal today, that animal has this perception, has this comprehension and understanding, that the Allah who fed me today will feed me tomorrow. Your intellect is supposed to be superior to that of animals. Why do you feel you have to break Allah's command to earn your rizq and your sustenance? وَكَأَيٍّ مِّن دَابَّةٍ لَا تَحْمِلُ رِزْقَهَا اللَّهُ يَرْزُقُهَا وَإِيَّاكُمْ. The Allah that is feeding the animals will feed you also. This deer looks up. Suddenly the water starts rising and rising. The animal drinks. This insan drinks. Animal runs away. Then the insan turns to Allah, that, oh my Allah, my whole life I made your ibadat. I am ashraful makhluqat. For me you didn't raise the water. For me you didn't raise the water. For the animal you raised the water. From the heavens the voice comes. Your gaze went towards your amama and your khuf. The animal looked towards us. So for the animal we did, for you we didn't. إِنَّمَا وُكِلَ ابْنُ آدَمْ لِمَنْ رَجَاهُ ابْنِ آدَمْ. My Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, any entity that you will place your dependence and reliance upon besides Allah, you will be handed over to that entity. You will be enslaved and humiliated before that entity. وَلَوْ أَنَّ ابْنَ آدَمْ لَمْ يَرْجُ إِلَّا اللَّهِ لَمْ يَكِلْهُ إِلَىٰ غَيْرِهِ. And if Ibn Adam, if insan will trust and rely upon no one but Allah, if the focus of the heart will be Allah, if the qibla of the heart will be Allah, if you will turn towards Allah, every rakat of every salah, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدْ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Only you we worship and only you we ask for help. Only you we turn to. You are the only one that can fulfill our need. You are the only one that can solve our problem. You are the only one that is going to give us succor and comfort from depression and mental illness and whatever we are facing. It is only Allah. It is only Allah. It is only Allah. Rabbul Mashriq wal Maghrib. La ilaha illahu. Fattakhidhu wakila. Allah says, Rabb of the East and Rabb of the West. La ilaha illahu. No one but Allah. So what does Allah say? Fattakhidhu wakila. This verse in the Quran is ajib. Allah says, make me your wakil. Make me your wakil. Hand your affair over to me. Turn to Allah. But normally, what does the word Quran uses? Allah says, fattakhidhu. Ittikhad. Ittikhad comes from akhadha ya'khud. Akhadha means to catch hold of something. Normally this word in normal conversation is used for what? This word is used for that which you can see, which is tangible, which you can hold on to. You tell somebody akhadha ya'khud, catch hold of something you can see. Hold the chair, or hold the ground, or catch hold of something. Allahu Akbar. Allah uses the same word ittikhad. For what? فَاتَّخِذْهُ وَكِيلًا. Catch hold of Allah as your wakil. In other words, hand yourself over to Allah. Kafa billahi wakila. Kafa billahi waliya. Kafa billahi nasira. Kafa billahi shahida. Kafa billahi hafiza. Allah says, I am sufficient for you. I am sufficient for you as your helper, as your overseer, as your protector, as your friend, as your assistant, as your wakil, as your nasir. Allah says, I am with you. Turn to Allah. Alaysa Allahu bikafin abada. Am I not sufficient for you? Where are you turning? Who are you looking towards? And the tragedy and the travesty that is facing us, Allah forgive us, my respected brothers, is that today we are turning in every other direction besides Allah, and the perception of the loss is not there also. Put your hand in your pocket and that $100 that was there is no longer there. You lose sleep at night. You can't sleep. My $100, I lost it. I put it. What happened to it? Pareshan. We haven't found Allah. We haven't tasted the sweetness of Allah's love. We haven't tasted the ecstasy of Allah's munajat. We haven't tasted the sweetness of communion with Allah. That loss, and the clock of our life is ticking, and the perception of the loss is not there also. What a great loss. What greater loss can there be? اطلبني تجدني إن وجدتني وجدت كل شيء وإن فتني فاتك كل شيء وأنا خير لك من كل شيء. Allah says, O Ibn Adam, O insan, search for your Allah. Search for your Allah. تجدني, you will find Allah. You will find me. إن وجدتني وجدت كل شيء. If you have found Allah, you have found everything. Dunya will be made, qabr will be made, akhirat will be made. There will be no greater tranquility, no greater sukoon, no greater peace, no greater contentment. There will be no greater maza and ecstasy in the heavens and in the earth. Greater than that, than the one who has found Allah. In wajadtani wajadta kulla shay. If you have found me, you have found everything. Wa in futtani fataka kullu shay. And if you have lost me, you have lost everything. Lose Allah and you have lost everything. Our mamla and affairs with Allah. We are looking everywhere else, blaming governments and blaming this one and blaming that one. Man aslaha ma baynahu wa bayna Allah, aslaha Allahu ma baynahu wa bayna khalqi. My Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, correct your relationship with Allah. The focus should not be on others. Do not condemn others. Do not blame others. Don't point the finger towards others. You are makhluk, they are makhluk. Man aslaha ma baynahu wa bayna Allah. Correct your relationship with Allah. Aslaha Allahu ma baynahu wa bayna khalqi. Allah will correct your relationship with the rest of the creation. ليتك تحلو والحياة مريرة وليتك ترضى والأنام غضاب وليت الذي بيني وبينك عامر وبيني وبين العالمين خراب إذا صح منك الود فكل هين وكل الذي فوق التراب تراب. Like the poet puts it, ليتك تحلو والحياة مريرة. Oh my Allah, if this entire life has become bitter and my relationship with you is sweet, then I have succeeded. If my relationship with everyone has broken down and my relationship with you is intact, إِذَا صَحَّ مِنْكَ الْوُدْ فَكُلٌّ هَيٍّ. If I have found you, then every musibat and every calamity and every hardship is temporary. It is light. It is a passing phase. كُلَّ الَّذِي فَوْقَ التُّرَابِ تُرَابُ. Why? Because besides Allah, everything was dust and it will become dust. منها خلقناكم وفيها نعيدكم ومنها نخرجكم تارة أخرى. Everything is batil, everything is useless, everything is valueless, everything is bankrupt, everything is zero. This is La ilaha illallah. Zero, 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 zero will still be zero until you bring the one. When illallah comes, when you find Allah, then every zero will increase the strength of the zero preceding it. Find Allah. In wajadtani wajadta kulla shay. Allah's marifat, Allah's greatness, Allah's kibriyai. Coming back to what we were mentioning together earlier. Allahu Akbar. Allah. What does this mean? Allah says the trees have to turn into pens, waters of the ocean into ink. Add another 7 oceans. Say to insan, say to jinnat, say to the Anbiya alayhimu salatu wassalam, say to the malaika, write the tarif of Allah, the kibriyai of Allah, the azmat of Allah, the kalimat of Allah. La nafida al-bahru قبل أن تنفد كلمات ربي ولو جئنا بمثله مددا. Insan will perish, jinnat will perish, malaika will perish, anbiya will perish. The ink will come to an end, the pens will come to an end. Allah's kalimat, Allah's greatness, Allah's azmat, Allah's kibriyai, Allah's sifat, Allah's attributes will never ever come to an end. ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمُ الْحَقِّ ذَلِكُمُ اللَّهُ رَبُّكُمُ الْحَقِّ فَمَاذَا بَعْدَ الْحَقِّ إِلَّا الضَّلَالِ. Everything besides Allah is dalal. Find Allah and you have found everything. What is the road to Allah? What is the medium to finding Allah? Quran calls out, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهِ قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهِ فَاتَّبِعُونِي فاتبعوني يحببكم الله ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم والله غفور رحيم. This verse is ajib. Allah calls out, tell them if you love Allah. Allah doesn't just leave it at that. If you are sincere in your love for Allah, what will happen? يحببكم الله. You will become the beloved of Allah. يغفر لكم ذنوبكم. Allah will wipe away. What is maghfirat? Maghfirat is dukhulul jannah. Jannah will be guaranteed for you. Paradise will be guaranteed for you. Such a Jannat. To use the word low for Jannat is inappropriate, but this is a translation of the riwayat. Inna adna ahlil jannati manzila. Inna adna ahlil jannati manzila. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, in other words, there is nothing lower than this. There is nothing lower than this in Jannah. This is the lowest. Nothing lower than this. The last person to enter Jannah. Normally in this world, when they want to give prominence, they put red carpet. They say red carpet ceremony. Sometimes 10 meters, 15 meters. It is said the carpet that will be laid out for the last person to come enter Jannah, for his istiqbal, his reception committee, that carpet will be 40 years long. 40 years long. It will be flanked on both sides by 80,000 servants. 80,000. There's nothing lower than this in Jannah. This is Adna Ahlil Jannati Manzila. First Dastar Khan laid out. On it 80,000 different types of food. Give somebody one plate of biryani, he'll eat it, he'll enjoy it. Give him another plate. Maybe if he's got a big appetite, he'll enjoy that one also. Then you present the third plate. Then he's looking for antacid tablets, suffering from indigestion, got burping problem, this problem. He won't not even look at it. You get exceptions. There was one person traveling, passed by one town. So somebody saw he's a Pardesi, he's a stranger, so he invited him home. Obviously unannounced guest, so it wasn't, the meals were not prepared. Made him sit down, went to fetch hot bread, brought the hot bread, left it, went to go fetch the curry. By the time he came with the curry, the hot bread was finished. So he left the curry, went back for some more hot bread. By the time he came back with hot bread, the curry was finished. So like the Sai, Safa Marwa, he was making up and down. Each time he's bringing something, the other one is finished. Till eventually all his food got finished. Finally the guest got satisfied. So then he protocols, we got into conversation. By where are you going? So I'm going to certain town. Why? There's a doctor, Hakim. I'm going for medical advice, treatment. What do you suffer from? So I suffer from lack of appetite. So he said, brother, do me one favor, on your return journey, please don't pass my town. Just go some other way. No? How much can a person eat? How much can a person eat? Yet, the food of Jannah, 80,000 different. This is the first Dastar Khan of the lowest person in Jannah. 80,000 different types of food. And yet, yajidu fi akhiri luqmatin minha ladhatan lam yajid qablaha. He will experience in the 80,000th morsel that lazzat and ecstasy which he did not experience before that. In other words, it will get better and better and better. Such a Jannat. the food of Jannah, the rivers of Jannah, the streams of Jannah, the maidens of Jannah. Women of such beauty, the Quran does not get tired of describing them. وَحُورٌ عِينٌ كَأَمْثَالِ اللُّؤْلُؤِ الْمَكْنُونِ جَزَاءً بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ كَأَنَّهُنَّ الْيَاقُوتُ وَالْمَرْجَانُ فِيهِنَّ قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ لَمْ يَطْمِثْهُنَّ إِنسٌ قَبْلَهُمْ وَلَا جَانٌ فِيهِنَّ خَيْرَاتٌ حِسَانٌ حور مقصورات في الخيام لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان وحور عين كأمثال اللؤلؤ المكنون عربا No time to go into the details, we're running out of time. عربا أترابا. Just this expression, عربا أترابا. What have the Mufassirin written under these words, the description? They say mutahabbibat, mutaashiqat. There's no easy way to translate this in English. What it means, if you want to simplify the English, mutahabbibat, mutaashiqat, women that have a PhD in giving love. And women that have a PhD who excel in ishq and in ecstasy. It is said when she walks towards you, in the sway of her hips will be 100,000 suggestions towards ecstasy. In aqbalat or mudbirat, hiya muqbila. Whether she's walking towards you or walking away from you, she'll still be looking at you. Look at her, look away. And when you look back, nowadays in this dunya, what happens? A little bit of eye candy we see. Sometimes what the youngster says, I'm madly in love. What? Madly. Pagal ho gaya. Madly in love. I'll commit suicide. I have to have that. Sometimes parents are trying to explain why totally inappropriate. You have to consider she has to become the mother of your children. You live a home with her. Don't only look at the surface. Someone raised the question the other day that why do men prefer beauty to brains? Because they say they can see better than they can think. Sometimes the beauty bamboozles the thinking also. So when the advice is given, they don't listen. They want to start courting. I need to get to know her. So in other words, they court before marriage so that after marriage, not even 1 month is gone and they're back in court, divorce court. We were given a shariat, we were given a way of life. We were given that recipe where the home will become Jannat. But for that we have to embrace the way of life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In any case, I'm digressing. It's a different matter. The woman of dunya, according to the riwayat of Aisha radiallahu anha, a woman of this dunya who will please Allah, Allah will give her 70,000 times more beauty than the woman of Jannah. Such a Jannat. Each time you look at her, what is the first gaze? First gaze, according to the riwayat of Qurtubi rahimahullah, such is the beauty, such is the magnetic attraction of this woman that the first gaze will last for 40 years. One riwayat it comes 70 years. One riwayat it comes 500 years. 500 years staring transfixed at the beauty of this woman. Such a Jannat. Such a Jannat. Allahu Akbar. Such a Jannat. This is why it is the cry and the lament of our elders. Bring alive the muzakara of Jannat and Jahannam. We are talking of everything else. Bring this alive. Bring this alive. Quran, 1,000 verses. 1,000 verses. My Allah, Jannat, Jahannam, Jannat, Jahannam, Jannat, Jahannam. And today the talks of it have come out. Coming back to what we were saying earlier, Allah commands Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, tell them, if you love Allah, what will Allah give you? You will become the beloved of Allah. Allah will forgive your sins. Maghfirat is dukhulul Jannah. Jannah will be guaranteed. What is the condition? Fattabi'uni. فَاتَّبِعُونِي. Follow me. Follow Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. لو استفتحوني كل باب وجاءوني من كل طريق لا أفتح عليهم إلا أن يدخلوا وراءك يا حبيبي يا محمد. If they will open every door and come on every road, I will never grant them my Jannah. Never grant them my love. Never grant them my marifat. Never grant them my ta'alluq. Never grant them entry into my court, except that they do not come upon your road. O my beloved, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, such a Nabi, interspersed throughout Quran, such is the link between Habib and Mahbub, Allah and His beloved Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Interspersed throughout Quran is mention of even the body parts of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alam nashrah laka sadrak, the chest of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alladhi anqadha dhahrak, alladhi anqadha dhahrak, the back of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. لا تمدن عينيك, the eyes of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. لا تجعل يدك, the hand of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. مغلولة إلى عنقك, the neck of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. قد نرى تقلب وجهك, the face of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. لا تحرك به لسانك, the tongue of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. نزل به الروح الأمين على قلبك, the heart of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وقيله, the speech of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Somewhere the face, somewhere the hands, somewhere the chest, somewhere the back, somewhere the heart, somewhere the tongue, somewhere the eyes, somewhere the neck, somewhere the speech. And then Quran brings all this together. La'amruk, by the qasam and oath of the life of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Inna laka fin nahari sabhan tawila, the day of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wa min al-layl fatahajjad bihi nafilatan lak, the night of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya ayyuhal muzammil, ya ayyuhal muddathir, the cloak of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the blanket of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tabarakalladhi nazzala al-furqana ala abdihi liyakuna lil alamin nadhira, the alamiyat of the nubuwwat of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ma kana Muhammadun aba ahadin min rijalikum walakin rasul Allah wa khatam an-nabiyyin wa kana Allah bi kulli shay'in alima, the khatm nubuwwat of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Such a Nabi this ummah was given, yet no stone left unturned. We've run out of time. Tashkil will start in a few minutes, but to give us some comprehension, some idea of the extent to which everything was placed on the mantle of sacrifice for the sake of this ummah. Who is more qualified than our mother Sayyidina Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha. This riwayat is mentioned. Qadi Ayaz rahimahullah in his Shifa mentions this riwayat. Aisha radiyallahu anha gives us in just a few expressions the nichor, khulasa, gives us the essence of that 23 years of nubuwwat, 8,156 days. At the end of the riwayat she says, فَمَا أَقَامَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ إِلَّا شَهْرًا. From whatever I have described, my Nabi lived for 1 more month. This was 30 days before the demise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That Aisha radiyallahu anha gives this testimony of the life of Rasulullah, his nubuwwat, what he went through for the sake of his ummah. She begins this expression like this. She says, لم يمتلئ جوف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم شبعا قط ولم يبث شكوى إلى أحد وكانت الفاقة أحب إليه من الغنى ولو شاء سأل ربه جميع كنوز الأرض وثمارها ورغد عيشها. She says 23 years of nubuwwat. There wasn't one day that my Nabi ate stomach full. لم يمتلئ جوف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم شبعا قط. He never complained to anyone. She says poverty, hunger, hardship, pain was preferred to him over ease. Allah offered him, if you want. He didn't even need to make dua, just needed to desire it. Just needed to desire it, and Allah would have turned the mountains into gold for him. Man and salwa from Jannat would have been sent to this earth for him. And by the qasam of my Allah, by the qasam of my Allah, by the qasam of my Allah, if he accepted this, if he asked for this, this would not have diminished his maqam and status even by 1 iota. Yet he voluntarily chose this hardship, voluntarily chose this suffering, this hunger, because he knew majority of his ummah will be in difficulty. Because this qurbani, this sacrifice, is the water that is going to water the gardens of hidayat for his ummah. Aisha radiallahu anha goes on, she says, at times for an entire night he would toss and turn, toss and turn, toss and turn, as a result of excessive hunger. Yet a night spent like that would not stop him from fasting the next day. And then she goes on to describe one specific night. She says, I woke up in the middle of the night and I became alarmed. I saw the beloved of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. His back was bent over. He was pressing his stomach to the plank of the bed. When I saw him in this distress, I said, Ya Rasulullah, what has happened? What has happened? He said, Aisha, the pangs of hunger have become too difficult for me to bear. She says, I tried to give him some comfort to alleviate his distress. I placed my hand on his stomach and I started pressing his stomach. With tears in my eyes, I said, Ya Rasulullah, make dua to Allah. Make dua, Allah is ready. Make dua to Allah. Allah opens the door of wealth upon you. Mali walid dunya. What is there for me in this dunya? Udhitu fillahi ma lam yudha ahad. Ukhiftu fillahi ma lam yakhaf ahad. No one in humanity suffered like how he suffered. No one was made to fear like how he feared. They passed upon him and Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu 30 consecutive days. 1 month. And there wasn't sufficient for both. And there was 1 month. And all they had to eat was what Bilal could conceal underneath his armpits. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu says, I walked. This is that personality. Ana awwalun nasi khurujan idha bu'ithu. أنا قائدهم إذا وفدوا أنا خطيبهم إذا أنستوا أنا مبشرهم إذا أيسوا لواء الحمد بيدي يوم القيامة يطوف علي 1000 خادم كأنهم بيض مكنون كل الناس آدم ومن سواه تحت لوائي. I will be the first to be raised up on the day of judgment. When humanity is silenced, I will speak. When humanity has lost hope, I will give them hope. When humanity is caught in the throes of fear and difficulty, I will be the one to give them glad tidings. I will be the one to intercede on their behalf. The flag of Allah's praise will be in my hand. I will be surrounded by thousands of servants. And then he said, the whole of humanity, Adam alayhi salam, and every Nabi of Allah will be under my flag. That maqam, that status. And yet, he's walking in the garden with Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. And he's picking up dates from the ground. Dates that are lying on the ground will be partially eaten by insects. He's picking these dates up, he's cleaning them and eating them. He offers it to Ibn Umar. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu says, I couldn't even look at those dates. I said, Ya Rasulullah, I don't desire it. He said, Bal ana ashtahihi. Bal ana ashtahihi. Hadihi subhu rabi'a. Ma dhuktu shay'a. Ibn Umar, I desire these dates. Why? Because 4 days have passed. 4 days have passed. And not one morsel of food has entered my stomach. That day is coming. Sahaba will be coming in legions. Someone with his nose cut off, someone with his ears cut off, someone with his chest ripped open. Lawnuhu lawnu dam, wa rihuhu rihu misk. The color will be that of blood, the fragrance will be that of musk, and each one will be saying, Fika wa fi rasulika sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ya Allah, for your sake and the sake of your Rasul sallallahu. What excuse have we prepared for that? What are we going to say? What did we put forward for Allah and His Rasul? In every direction, Jahannam is burning. Current world population, if 80% have to die, are going to Jahannam forever and ever. Where is the cry? Where is the fikr? Where is the worry? Where is the concern? Janazah of a Jew is lifted in Medina Munawwara. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is crying. Sahaba say, Alaysat Yahudiyan. Ya Rasulullah, it's a Jew. Why are you crying? He said, Alaysat nafsun tafallatat minni. Is it not another ummati of mine that is going to Jahannam forever and ever? When someone would die on kufr, it was as if he saw that person entering Jahannam. Such descriptions Allah gives of that fire. Innaha lava nazza'atan lishawa tad'u man adbara wa tawalla fi samum wa hamim wa dhillim min yahmum la baridin wa la kareem innal ladhina kafaru bi ayatina sawfa nuslihim nara kullama nadijat juluduhum baddalnahum juludan ghayraha liyadhuqul adhab yatajarra'uhu ولا يكاد يسيغ ويأتيه الموت من كل مكان وما هو بميت ومن ورائه عذاب غليظ سرابيلهم من قطران تغشى وجوههم النار. Such descriptions, Allah protect us. It was as if he saw that person entering. This is why Sahaba say, Azizun ka Azizil Mirjal. The sound of a boiling kettle would come from the heart of Rasulullah. Ya Rabbi Ummati Ummati. Ya Rabbi Ummati. This worry, this concern, this cry, this dard, this pain, through the barakat of the Khatm Nubuwwat of Janabi Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. This ummat, you and I, were made zimedar, were made responsible. This legacy of mercy for humanity had to transcend the boundaries of race, of nationality, of time also, so that the last person to come before Qiyamah is affected by the legacy of mercy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is Dawat and Tabligh, that this ummat was made responsible to keep alive that legacy of mercy of Rasulullah. Ar-Rahimun yarhamhumur Rahman irhamu man fil ard yarhamkum man fis sama. This is Allah's sunnah. Ar-Rahimun, those who will have mercy, those who will have mercy, Allah, the most merciful, will have mercy on them. Have mercy upon those, upon this humanity that is living on this earth. Yarhamkum man fis sama. The one in the heavens will have mercy upon you. This is not increasing numbers or some political agenda, no. This is a call. This is a call for each one of us to learn the gulami of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Learn what his day was, learn what his night was, what his fikr was, what his concern was, what his cry was. Turn the clock back 14 centuries to Medina Munawwara in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So my respected brothers, tashkil is going to take place now. This is not a commitment. There won't be any legal ramifications. Not you, not I can take one step out in the path of Allah without Allah's acceptance. The standing up is, Ya Allah, accept me. It's dua. Dua from the heart. If I haven't been for 4 months now, put our application. This is the most Mubarak night of the week, the night of Jumu'ah. Stand up with this, Ya Allah, you accept me. Stand up, mashallah. Come and speak. Many brothers have given their names day in the heart. Allah Ta'ala accept your intention. Very, very important, my respected brothers. One is our Shabdudari takes place normally on a Friday night. This week has been brought forward to Thursday night. Like we've gathered here, alhamdulillah, this Ijtima takes place every week. So we make a humble appeal that everyone, inshallah, every week we should be coming to the Shabdudari. All of us will try and come, inshallah. With this, my respected brothers, our elders are saying that the solution to whatever problems the ummah is facing is the ummah has to link and attach itself with the masjid. Masjid is like the heart. The heart is healthy, then the whole body is healthy. Mafhum, the hadith of Rasulullah said, Allah's azab that is already over the rooftops. If a locality has transgressed to that limit, that Allah's azab has become imminent upon them. Allah Ta'ala says that if I see the masjid of that locality abad, those that are crying, turning to Allah Ta'ala, whose hearts are united, full of love, engaged in the effort of deen. And the masjid is abad, saraftul adab anil nas. And that azab which was imminent is removed from that locality. إِذَا رَأَيْتُمُ الَّذِينَ يَعْتَادُ الْمَسْجِدِ فَاشْهَدُوا لَهُ بِالْإِيمَانِ. Nabi Sallallahu said, if you see someone making the masjid abad, engaged in the amal of masjid, then Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, فَاشْهَدُوا لَهُ بِالْإِيمَانِ. Give shahadat that he has iman. Protection of iman is in linking and attaching ourselves to the masjid. Our elders have given us a very simple tartib as to how to make the masjid abad. They are saying that we need to bring 5 amal in our lives. 3 on a daily basis, 1 weekly, 1 a month. Very briefly, one is 3 on a daily basis, one is our daily mashwara, daily talim in the masjid, talim at home. Like we eat, drink, sleep and go to job every day, we're saying every day for the effort of Rasulullah give some time. 2.5 hours up to 8 hours. If you can't give 2.5 hours, at least start, even if it is half an hour. But every day, give time to the masjid. Weekly is our jola, our ingash and our outgash, and on a monthly basis, Allah Ta'ala's minimum, Allah's mercy is such, the minimum affair Allah has with his banda and slave is this. Allah's principle is this. That you give me 1, I will minimum give you 10. Man jaa bil hasana falahu ashru amsal. That's minimum. مثل الذين ينفقون أموالهم في سبيل الله كمثل حبة أنبتت 7 سنابل في كل سنبلة 100 حبة والله يضاعف لمن يشاء من ذا الذي يقرض الله قرضا حسنا فيضاعفه له أضعافا كثيرا. Many verses where Allah speaks of much more than 10. But minimum is 10. So based on this, our elders say if we give Allah 3 days in the month, then minimum Allah will write it down as if 30 days were spent in the path of Allah. In other words, the whole month was spent in the path of Allah. So the 5th amal of the amal of masjid is that 3 days every month we give in the path of Allah. So all of us will try and do this inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم لك الحمد كله ولك الشكر كله ولك الملك كله بيدك الخير كله اللهم لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك اللهم صل على محمد وأنزله المقعد المقرب عندك يوم القيامة جزا الله عنا نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم بما هو أهله اللهم إنا ندعوك الله وندعوك الرحمن وندعوك البر الرحيم وندعوك بأسمائك الحسنى ما علمنا منه وما لم نعلم أن تغفر لنا وترحمنا ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحانك ما أحلمك سبحانك ما أجودك سبحانك ما عبدناك حق عبادتك سبحانك ما عرفناك حق معرفتك كم من نعمة أنعمت بها علينا فقل لك بها شكرنا كم من بلية ابتليتنا بها فقل لك بها صبرنا يا من قل عند نعمته شكرنا فلم يحرمنا ويا من قل عند بليته صبرنا فلم يخذلنا يا من رآنا على الخطايا فلم يفضحنا يا ذا المعروف الذي لا ينقضي أبدا يا ذا النعماء التي لا تحصى أبدا يا إلهنا وخالقنا ورازقنا اجعلنا ممن يساقون إلى الجنة زمرا إلهنا إن كانت ذنوبنا كثيرة فإن رحمتك أعظم وأجل إلهنا عاملنا برحمتك فأنت أرحم الراحمين فأنت أجود الأجودين فأنت خير الغافرين إن مغفرتك أوسع من ذنوبنا ورحمتك أرجى عندنا من أعمالنا يا غفار الذنوب يا ستار العيوب اغفر لنا ولجميع أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم ارحم أمة حبيبك صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم تجاوز عن سيئات أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم أصلح أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم اهد أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم اهد الإنس والجان اللهم افتح أبواب الهداية اللهم أخرج الناس من الظلمات إلى النور وجنبهم الفواحش ما ظهر منها وما بطن يا رب العالمين اللهم إنا نسألك حبك وحب رسولك صلى الله عليه وسلم وحب عمل يقربنا إلى حبك. اللهم اجعل نبينا لنا فرطا وحوضه لنا موردا. اللهم احشرنا في زمرة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واستعملنا على سنته واجعلنا من حزبه يا رب العالمين. يا مونس كل وحيد، يا صاحب كل فريد، يا قريبا غير بعيد، يا شاهدا غير غائب، يا غالبا غير مغلوب، يا حي يا قيوم، يا ذا الجلال والإكرام، يا نور السماوات والأرض، يا زين السماوات والأرض، يا عماد السماوات والأرض، يا بديع السماوات والأرض، يا سند من لا سند له، يا ذكر من لا ذكر له، يا حرز الضعفاء، يا كنز الفقراء، يا إلهنا وخالقنا ورازقنا. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة. اللهم إنا نسألك الفردوس الأعلى وما قرب إليها من الأقوال والأعمال، ونعوذ بك من سخطك، ونعوذ بك من عقابك، ونعوذ بك من عذاب جهنم وما قرب إليها من الأقوال والأعمال. ربنا اصرف عنا عذاب جهنم إن عذابها كان غراما إنها ساءت مستقرا. اللهم اجعل اجتماعنا هذا اجتماعا مرحوما، واجعل تفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما، ولا تجعل فينا ولا منا ولا معنا شقي ولا محروما، برحمتك ومنك وفضلك وكرمك يا أكرم الأكرمين. صلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه سيدنا ومطعنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.